Well, it's official, friends. The hordes of alien biker marauding panda pirates have exposed themselves for who they truly are. We've known they've been here this whole time. Deep in our hearts, we've been aware of this, but now they finally revealed themselves, and their plot to take over the world is imminent. But on our way out of the city, in our attempt to escape certain death, we have encountered a breakdown. All four tires have gone flat at the same time. I realize that's a bit of an exaggeration, but sure, perhaps there's some reason why you might need to flee the city. Perhaps there's some sort of major attack in America that, for all likelihood, could happen. I don't know. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, a negative Nancy, a pessimist, and I pray that that doesn't happen and we keep on living the good life. But potentially one day, enemies of our nation, enemies of our way of life, might do something drastic. No, I always try to keep things as realistic as possible and not be too outlandish and, act like I'm Rambo living behind enemy lines, army crawling. Try to be as realistic as I can for the most part. I like to have a good time and have some fun with it. But I do think that training is important, and we should get out with our gear. We should get out with our packs on. We should test out our boots, make sure they don't rub our feet raw if we have to walk in them. We should test our vehicles in all-terrain, rough trails that test it, and if something's going to break, it's good to test it and make sure that you're capable of fixing those, making some repairs on the roadside, that kind of stuff. I think all that's really important. So we are on foot. We're potentially using this road right here that I'm very close to. I'd say 50 yards from this road right now. I'm using this road as a handrail to help guide me on my way so I don't get lost. Yes, I could navigate by map and compass or potentially GPS, but in a disaster scene such as the biker panda pirates, GPS might not be a thing, might not be an option. Perhaps those aliens have taken out our communications and our navigational tools. So, we know the way. We've tested out this route. We know how to get to our bug out location, our friend's property that's 50, 60, 100 miles away, whatever it is. We know the way. We just need to, use this road as a navigational aid. We just stay next to this road, but off of the road just enough so we don't encounter any of these adversaries that we might come across. So I'm staying off the road as far as I can, really, and still keeping an eye on it, right? Maybe not even visually, but I can hear it perhaps. I can hear the traffic going by, or I can, if perhaps I could just see it, a tiny glimpse of it through the foliage. That's not a bad idea, but I'm staying off it as far as I can. But in a lot of places, unlike this, there might be houses and stuff and buildings and properties and stuff that you might have to negotiate and have to navigate through and around. I don't know. But in this situation where I live, if I had to go from town, which is 15 miles away, back to my property, for example, to my house, if that was the situation, if that's where the aliens decided to first make their move. I was in town and I needed to get home and something happened. I had 4 flat tires. I'd be using these country roads like this, and I'd just be using them as handrails. Now, unfortunately, in this modern world that we live in, it's hard to tell who the enemy is. So let's say there was some sort of big major attack on American soil, and it's not like their team wears red jumpsuits and we wear blue jumpsuits. That's not how it works. It's like, you may not know who the enemy is, and it may be important for you to be able to lie low. And if I needed to travel 15, 20, 30, 40 miles, whatever it is, it might be important. It might be the safest route, maybe not the easiest route. And sure, I could take the risk and I could just throw my thumb up and maybe catch a ride or something like that. But who am I catching a ride with? And if I could make it on foot and I could be much, much safer, perhaps that's the right thing to do in this scenario. I don't know. But what I am saying is that it's not that difficult to kind of stay off of the radar, especially in this area. This is not a backcountry road. It's one of the major roads around here, one of the highways around here. But it's not crazy busy, and there's not a whole lot of houses around. I mean, there's houses on either side of the road in certain places, and I might have to cross the road in certain places. And what I would do is I'd look for deer trails or game trails, And look where the deer cross the road, because those are convenient places. They're generally places that are harder to see from longer distances away. And there's usually cover on both sides. So game trails are a good place to cross roads typically. Not always, but typically that's a general rule of thumb. But let's say I was, walking along now and I'm on my way home, or wherever it is I'm going, to my bug out location, and I am carrying everything that I own on my back. And I've been walking all day, and I've got a little bit further to go, but man, I am beat. I'm tuckered out. I need to settle down for a long winter's nap. What I would probably do, if I would get as far off the road as I could, that would be what I would like to do. But for this demonstration purposes, maybe I can't get that far off of the road because of civilization and houses and homes and buildings and whatever, wherever you are. What I could do is I could bed down in, by far, the simplest. Everybody wants to make these complicated shelters and these bushcrafty survival shelters, these stealth shelters where they're popping out underneath the moss-covered log, But that stuff takes forever to build. It takes a significant amount of effort and time, and it's just for entertainment purposes only. So it's not realistic. So what I would do is I would find this nasty spot right here. So I'm gonna get really close to the road. I'm gonna get right on it. And just by, I'm in the briars. I'm gonna get right on the road here, and just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you how easy it is to disappear if you were limited, if you were confined to the roadside, to tuck off. Because maybe perhaps I'm using the road to walk along, and I'm using it because it's the easiest way to get from A to B, and maybe it's not like imminent danger everywhere. Like I don't feel like I'm going to get shot every step that I take. Maybe I can use the road, but I don't want to sleep on the road. I still got to tuck off here, and I don't want to be snuck up on in the middle of the night or run over by a crazy driver that veers off the side of the road. So I can just tuck off right here, and I guarantee there's the road. Look, I'm really close to the road. I mean, that's 20 yards probably, I would say 20 yards from the road. But just because I've got this kind of, and my truck's right there, that's where I parked. And just because I've picked kind of a decent spot that has decent coverage, not a lot of foliage, but because of the terrain, there's a slight hill right here that drops down to the road, and I'm kind of seeing the tops of the cars. So I'm just using the terrain as to my advantage, and I'm gonna bed down right here. That's it. That's all I've got to do. I could even get over here on this side if it looks like it might be a little bit more discreet, perhaps right there. But this spot looks decent, and I would be willing to bet a whole lot of money that there's no way you could see me once I get set up. So I would just get in here, and I would get low like this, and I would sit here for a minute, and I would assess the situation. I'd sit here quietly for a few minutes, 5-10 minutes, listen, smell, look, and observe my surroundings. There's a car right there. Yeah, but do you see how the top of the car kind of disappears because of the terrain? Can't even see that car that just went by there. That is gross. There is a diaper on the side of the road. Not gonna lay down right there. Don't want to deal with that. So this little spot right here is fine. I mean, like I said, I would get further away from the road if possible, but maybe you can't get further away from the road for whatever reason. There's another road right here behind me, or there's houses or whatever. So this spot right here maybe is what I'm forced to do, and it's just a tiny little bit of coverage, but I've used the terrain. The car just went by, but you can't see it because that little bit of a hill. That's all. So I'm just using the terrain to my advantage, and I would just tuck in here in this little spot. I would clear it of any major problems, big rocks or spiky, pokey briars or something like that I might have to lay on and make it really uncomfortable. But I would alter my terrain as little as possible. I wouldn't change anything. I would keep it looking natural. I wouldn't build any kind of structure or shelter if I didn't have to. Now you may need to, depending on the weather, but the weather's warm today. The sun's kind of out. It's supposed to rain perhaps this evening, but I'm prepared for that. I've got waterproof shelter that's going to keep me out of the elements. But by far, like I said, the simplest solution is almost always the best solution. Maybe not almost always. It seems like it is always the best solution, the simplest one. And I'm just gonna use my bivy bag. That's it. And as warm as the weather is, a sleeping bag and a bivy bag, you put those two things together, I'll be cozy. I mean, even a ground pad would be nice, but not absolutely necessary because the weather is so warm. So there's my bivy bag down here in the bottom of my pack. One of the things that I do to help keep my kit dry is I keep my sleeping bag right here. I keep my sleeping bag in this stuff sack here in the bottom of my bivy bag. It's a Gore-Tex military bivy bag, and it is awesome. A little bit big, a little bit bulky and heavy, but totally worth it. Never regretted carrying it. We talked about that in previous videos when I talked about this kit. Love this bivy bag. It is awesome. When I get inside of the thing, I don't care what the weather is outside. It's fantastic. I spray it, I don't know, maybe once a year or so with a silicone spray. But other than that, it's bomb-proof, man. I really like it. So I've got my sleeping bag in there. If it was cold, I could crawl inside that sleeping bag. But by far, the lowest profile, most discreet, easy to conceal shelter that you can come up with is going to be this bivy bag right here. I mean, I could just not have any cover overhead. I'm just going to be in my bivy bag. So I could literally just kick the sharp rocks and stuff around, get them out of my way, maybe pile up some leaf litter to make my softer bed, just something a little bit more comfortable, but not absolutely required. I have a gift. I can sleep pretty much anywhere. I can sleep on a pretty hard surface and not be too upset about it. If it was really cold, I might blow up my inflatable mattress right here, might inflate that and stick it inside of my bivy bag. That would be a good idea. And I might do that anyway, just to give me a softer, comfier thing to lay on. Get inside my bivy bag like this. I'll zip it up, and then I will be completely hidden and protected from the elements. All right, I've got a poncho, I've got a tarp that I can use to cover up my gear, and that will keep it nice and dry and out of the elements if it was raining on me. Or I could drape that over top of me, and then I could create a really low profile poncho shelter, which we've done in plenty of videos. Probably don't need to, you can look up those videos, poncho shelters, and I guess I don't need to repeat that one. So, but even just a light rain, I don't even need an overhead cover. I've slept out in a light rain with just this bivy bag and been fine. I never have slept out in this bivy bag in a downpour. So if you have, let me know your results. If you stayed dry in a torrential downpour with just the bivy bag, let me know how you fared in that situation. But I've done it definitely in a light rain, heavy dew situation. Had no issues whatsoever with water getting into me. I know because I've done it. I've tested myself. I could sleep right here without question, without any problem. Because like I said, I've got a gift, but maybe that's not your gift. Maybe you need a little bit more to be able to get a decent night's sleep. Now in this situation, if you've got biker panda pirates running amok, you might be a little on edge and you may not sleep well anyway, but just giving yourself a little bit of time to relax and take the weight off your feet perhaps is going to be important. Refuel, get a little bite to eat, fuel up just a little bit. But I know that I could sleep right here, right now. If I turn this camera off, I'd be asleep in just a couple minutes and I'd be out. What if I have low-grade narcolepsy? This is a decent shelter here, so I'm protected on one side from these logs, this down tree that's fallen over. Right here, it looks almost man-made, but it's not. These three stacked logs right here are protecting me on one side, and then all of the dense cover right here is protecting me on this side. Let's see if we can see any cars. If we can't see them, they probably can't see us. Yep. Can't see the tops of the cars. Wait, there's one. So we can see them just a tiny little bit, but we've got these evergreen here, this holly in front of us. We've got all these layers. That's the important thing, is you got layers of vegetation. Even if it's not leafy green stuff, you know, if you've got layers of twigs in front of you, it makes it difficult for your eye to focus on something if you've got layers. So if you've got just one layer, you can kind of see through it and focus on the camera behind my fingers. But if I've got two layers, it makes it significantly more tricky for my eyes to get through all that and focus on it. So having all this briars and twigs and stuff in front of me is going to be a decent protection as far as visual goes. I'm not going to have a fire in this situation, obviously. I'm just going to be relying on my clothing and my warming layers to keep myself warm. So let's go up to the road and see what it looks like. This crazy simple shelter. Simple is the best. Don't overcomplicate stuff. So I'm gonna stick my gear inside of my pack here, and that's gonna simulate my body being in it, you know. Make it stick up a little taller. There's my head. Pack. Inside the bivy bag, that's me laying down for a slumber. Sawing logs. Hopefully you're not a loud snorer. That could be a problem too. Another thing you could do while you're in your shelter, while you're in your bivy bag, is you could just take the leaves around you and you could just kind of give it one of those, you know, cover yourself up just a little bit and help disguise you with the natural vegetation and stuff that's around you, because that's what's going to blend in the best. Your camouflage is going to be the best if it's made up of what's around you, like that. So there we go. I'm hidden in there until I start rolling around and knocking all that crap off of me, obviously. All right, so let's get out of here. Let's see. Getting out that way is pretty rough. So we're gonna go out this way, but I'm gonna count the steps out. So I'm gonna go kind of parallel to the road here. So from here, it's completely gone. I mean, I'm less than 10 steps away. I'd say 10 yards away. I'm 10 yards away right here from this side, and there's absolutely no way you can see me. But let's walk, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yards out into the road, or out towards the road, and we'll walk by. Just to drive by here. We're literally right on the edge of the woods here, right on the edge of the tree line. All this is nice and clear. And we're walking by. I mean, obviously I know where it is and I'm looking for it, so it's right there. But if you weren't, it'd be really difficult to spot that. Here's the road. Absolutely no possible way that you'd spot that. There's no way. I mean, I'm looking right at it and it's difficult to see. There's just no way. Do I think that this is a likely scenario that I'm going to be living in the near future? I don't think so. I think it's unlikely. I think it's a very low percentage, a very low probability that this is going to be something that I'm going to actually be doing for a whole long list of reasons. One, I've got a family, and I would do things very differently. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I wouldn't do things very differently if I had a family. Each one of my family members would have a similar setup as this, similar situation as this. I've got in my truck. So we could have low profile shelters kind of scattered around a small little area, and it'd be very difficult to spot them. But are we going to be, traveling on foot hundreds of miles cross country, evading our enemies? Probably not. So it's a low probability that that's going to be the situation. When the SHTF, you always have to say it like that, by the way. If you're saying it like SHTF, you're saying it wrong. You got to say SHTF with big quotes. If that happens, when that finally comes, I mean, who knows what it's actually going to look like. I think we need to plan, we need to prepare for the most probable, most likely situations and put most of our eggs in that basket. We need to be putting most of our training into those most likely scenarios that could happen to us and our families. I think that our training should be above and beyond that. I think our training should be more difficult. I think that we should really push ourselves in training and test our gear and test ourselves, test our mental fortitude as much as possible, because we just never really know. And if the real thing comes along, if the real SHTF comes along and our training has been extremely difficult, maybe we'll look at it and be like, no big deal. Hopefully that's the case, but I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it in the comment section. If you haven't already left a comment, please do so. Let me know what you think about this. Is this a realistic scenario? Is this something that we're likely to be living out in the near future? Do you like this setup? Do you think this is something that would work for you? Do you have the gift of sleeping on any old hard rock that comes along, like some sort of lizard like me? But leave a comment. Comments are much appreciated. Thumbs up, always much appreciated. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so, because we're coming out with great new videos all the time, and I cannot wait to see you on the next one. So until the next one, what's the worst that could happen? Let's just go on 3.